Perfect, yeah.
Hey guys, thanks for coming. We're gonna go ahead and get started here. Obviously we have Corenet today, a great organization, some awesome professionals. I'll let them introduce themselves, but they have experience and insights into a lot of really cool underappreciated parts of real estate, especially. They're here to help us and help Rutgers and sort of continue to grow the relationship and have a lot to share about what they do and what they work on and Corenet as a group. Tom and I and a couple members of the e-board and as well as the club have really benefited from meeting these guys and being involved with them and hoping to keep it going with you all. So let's give them a warm welcome.
Thanks everyone, appreciate it. So wanted to first introduce ourselves, so we'll start at the end.
So what I'm going to do is, my name is Jody Matthews. I am a managing director with JLL on the brokerage side, specializing in portfolios for my clients, handling their real estate all over pretty much the Americas. I'm going to ask you each to do, because one of the things that is very apparent to me is that your first job is probably not going to be your dream job, unless you're going to be a teacher. Like, we all have to start somewhere, we all have to put in our time. I started as an admin in a real estate company. It's a couple years ago. So I'm going to ask you each to very briefly introduce yourself, what you do now, and what was your first job out of college. Justin.
Hi everyone, my name is Justin Brstowski. I work for a company called AIS. We are a contract furniture manufacturer, the fastest growing in America. Our headquarters is right outside of Boston, Massachusetts. We have showrooms locally in New York City as well as Princeton, New Jersey. I've been with AIS for 6 years. Held positions as territory manager, director of sales, and my current title is vice president of sales of the Northeast. Prior to that, right out of college, I joined a general contracting firm doing sales and marketing. What was great about that was just able to learn and see how business runs, meet a lot of people, and that's kind of what gave me the opportunity to be able to today. So a lot of what we're going to talk about today is networking, the value of it, and really putting yourself out there to meet a bunch of people and market yourself.
Alex Friedenberg. Right now I work with JLL. I'm a commercial real estate broker, mainly office leasing, do both tenant rep and landlord rep. So we help occupiers of commercial real estate find space, lease space, and then we also represent landlords in marketing space that they own and are looking to lease. Graduated from Rowan University down in Glassboro, New Jersey, and my first job after graduation was with ADP in their retirement services division.
Hi everyone, my name is Ellen Korn. I'm an interior designer at Gensler, which is an architecture and design firm. We have locations all over the world. I went to school at Arizona State University. I studied interior design out there. My first job out of college was with a design firm that is no longer, but that's okay, it happens. And then eventually still continued with my path down interior design. I've worked with different sectors, so I've been in residential, I've done some hospitality, I've done some government work, and most recently I do a lot of professional service firms and workplace for financial services and law firms.
Hi everyone, I'm Caitlin. I work as an interior designer at a firm called HLW. It's located in Madison, but we have a handful of offices across the country and one in London. I went to school in Philadelphia, and once I graduated there, I got a job as an interior designer at a firm in New York City. Worked there for a few years, and then I went to HLW, and I've pretty much been there ever since. So I've pretty much done corporate interiors for my entire career. Not as diverse as Ellen's, but still works.
Hey everyone, I'm Tyler Conley. I work for Turner Construction, construction manager here in New Jersey, located out of Bridgewater. I am a project engineer currently. a superintendent for a construction site. And then I moved into sales for about 5-6 years in that construction industry. And today, currently am enrolled as the project engineer on a project down south.
This is meant to be extremely interactive, so if we say something that sparks something in you, whether it's a question or an idea, please jump in. Does anyone in here not major in finance? Yes. What do you major in? Econ. Econ, close enough. I'm sorry? Okay. You, sir?
I was business, but now I'm labor in HR.
In HR? Okay,
And
great.
labor in the planning.
All right, because I think last time we came, we didn't realize that the vast majority of the room was finance, and we were talking about all different disciplines, because none of us are finance majors. I'm gonna go out on a limb, were you?
I was.
All right, so we've got one person that's on the number as well.
We didn't have Alex on the panel last year.
Yeah, we had to bring him in.
I had to bring him in.
So I think what we want, Tyler, I think it's next, we just want to give you, like, the organization we're part of, Corenet, is probably the largest global commercial real estate organization. Corporate real estate organization. This is why we do it.
Yep.
So this is what it boils down to, right? So you guys are all in the real estate group, right? The committee, whatever you wanna call it, the club, right? What our group is just the same exact thing, just in the corporate world, right? So we're all, relatively young in our careers. We have a mentor who's also very young. And basically what we do is we operate very similar to how you guys operate, right? You guys are out of class, you guys are in the midst of studying for finals, right? We have our day jobs, right? And after our day jobs, we get together, whether it's an event like this, or a networking group, or what have you, right? And you're expanding your network internally and externally, not only at your career and your job, but also after your job, right? So what it boils down to, you can read the slide if you really care, but we're not gonna read it. We're a part of the Corenet group, which is the conduit that allows us to all be together, and it boils down to the same exact thing, the reason that you guys are all here, it's a club, right? So we all come from different backgrounds. The goal of this university relations event for us is to help answer and guide you guys to your next step in your career, right? Whether you're a freshman, a sophomore, junior, senior, right? Whether you're going to your next job in a month, whether you're going on a Euro trip, whether you got sophomore year coming up, right? So we're here to help you guys. So after our little quick spiel, open it up and let's ask questions, and we'll kind of help guide you as we can.
I'm here more as the moderator, so what I'll kind of throw out to the group is, what's your one piece of advice that you wish you knew before when you were graduating and looking for a job? Tyler?
I would say, hands down, my senior year as an engineer, it was 21 credits per semester. It was a lot. And I was on the swim team, so it was a lot of headache, right? And the goal was always to get my career started, to start making money, right? And start my career path and start growing in my development, personally. And I had thought that was it, right? You kind of got hired, and then, right, you worked your tail off, and day one of your career, right, you worked your tail off at that job, and from first one in, last one out, and that was it, right? And there was so much more to that story that I didn't know about getting involved, and how important, especially in a real estate world, or state rather, right, like New Jersey, how small it is, how important those external connections are outside of your company. And so, again, I'll reiterate, right, you guys are part of an external club, right, that's not mandatory by any means in any stretch, right, to get credits to get your diploma. But think about all the connections you guys are making here, and all the advantages of being in the club. And that's what I get out of being a part of Corenet, or being involved at the very least in something else other than just your career and your job, right?
Caitlin?
I think what I wish I knew when I was graduating college was that there's no one correct answer for where you're supposed to be after you graduate. I went to school in Philly, but I lived in New Jersey. I was like, well, go to school in Philly, have to get a job in New York City. There's no other place to get a job in New York City. So I did. And I didn't love it. And then I realized that when you're young, you're starting out in your career, that's the best opportunity for you to explore different avenues, different types of things, different companies to work for, figure out where you want to be, not where you feel like you should be. So.
I would say my advice that I wish I had when I was a senior was, you're so close to being done with school, and when you get a project, you just want to get it done. You're like, I don't care, I just want to get it done. I kind of want to do the easy way out sometimes, right? Because you're thinking about your next chapter in your life or graduating. And I wish that on my project senior year, I took the opportunity to figure out new ways of working and new programs or different ideas of how to get to the end result. Because that will only help you with what's going to come in the real world. So for example, in college, it was, when I was graduating, it was like a pivotal time of, and obviously no one knows these programs, but AutoCAD versus Revit. And in the industry, everyone was using AutoCAD, but I was always being told, oh, Revit's gonna be a thing. And I was like, I don't need to do it. That's not my expertise, I'm not gonna need to know it. So I just did, CAD, Photoshop, whatever to get the project done. And then when I started working for Gensler, this was my second job was at Gensler, and they said, oh, well, we can't hire you unless you know Revit. I said, okay, well, I'm gonna learn Revit, I'm gonna figure it out on my in-between break between jobs to learn it. So I almost wish in school I took the opportunity of someone saying, why don't you learn something, why don't you figure it out? Now's the opportunity to do it while you can still make mistakes and you can still figure it out. You're not in the real world yet saying, how come you don't know how to do this, or how come it's not working for you? So.
I wish I knew really about real estate my senior year. There was no real estate program at Rowan offered, and it wasn't until my senior year that a more ambitious freshman than I came in and started the real estate club. So I can't take credit, but I was a founding member of the real estate club at Rowan, and that was kind of my first intro to even career possibilities, outside of what I was studying in finance at Rowan. So that kind of opened my eyes up to different things that I could explore, and then from there I was doing my own research, reaching out to people, and to Tyler's earlier point, I think that's the most important thing, and that's what's going to be impactful for you guys is the connections you make in this room. I actually just got lunch yesterday with the guy Dan, who started the Rowan Real Estate Club, and now he's Cushman & Wakefield working in their capital markets division, and we keep in touch. And I know if there was anything he needed, for me, I would help him out, vice versa, and hopefully we'll work on something together, and it'll be the same for you guys here tonight. So that's what I'd say.
I wish I did what all you guys are doing now. We're investing the time out of your already busy schedules to come in, meet, hear professionals. I follow you guys on social media. You've had incredible speakers come in this semester, and that gets you a lot of different perspectives. And along with that, not doing an internship because I really didn't know what I wanted to do coming out of college as a marketing major, is find a mentor and kind of start building that board of directors around you. Because although you don't know what you want to do, I still don't know if what I'm doing now is what I really want to do when I grow up. But by having that board of directors around me and having that sounding board, for me it's been very helpful. And I wish I had that 9 years ago because you don't get back time. So by starting while you guys are younger like yourselves, you're positioning yourself to be in a very strong, favorable atmosphere, as you graduate and you go into that entry-level job that maybe isn't what you want to do, but we all have our stories, and that is going to be part of that picture that you paint for what's to come.
The only thing I'm going to add to that is when you start your kind of first real job, you're all going to be hired because you're good, and they think that you're going to be good and you're going to be successful, and you're going to be expected to do a good job because that's what you're there for. What's going to set you apart is everything you do there that is not related to your job. Volunteering for a project, even if it's just so you can learn something. We were just talking about this. Volunteering for a project so you can learn. Volunteering to work on something that nobody else wants to. That's what gets you recognized, and that's what gets you promoted. It's not doing your job well, because that's what you're expected to do. And that's what everyone's going to think you're going to do. Last year, we know we really went off on a tangent. I wouldn't even call it a tangent. It was what was critical to the team here, which was networking and things like that. What questions do you have as you're navigating your career and your networking and who you're gonna partner with and things like that. I think one of the things, the one with the, so what we put up here is just some of the varied disciplines that go into any development project. You need a land use attorney, because you've got to figure out what the highest and best use is, but you also got to figure out what the town's gonna let you do. So you've got to have a well-connected land use attorney. You're gonna need architects, both interior and exterior. You're gonna need construction, both interior and exterior. You're gonna need, obviously, a lot of analysis. You're gonna need banking relationships, because how you finance a project is critical. How much are you getting from public funds, if anything? What else do we have up there? Engineering, architecture, the design team, all the subcontractors. So it's a lot of disciplines. And I know that this is a very high finance-focused room, and that is a critical piece of it. But it's also working not just with different disciplines and different personalities within those disciplines, which is really critical in figuring out. I think some of you said, like, you took a personality test in 20 of your classes. What I would say is, that's great. You probably knew yourself pretty well before you got the results of your personality test. Look at all the other personalities and figure out how to work with them. Because that's how you're successful, when you can build a team and you know what your weaknesses are and you can recognize other people's strengths and how to get the best out of them. So it's kind of a little bit divergent. But what questions do you have? You've got a diverse panel of experience that have all been in this industry for a while now. They're all under 35. Shoot.
Yeah, so I definitely have a question. That's more of a leasing question.
Okay.
Especially, we've all sort of read the headlines with office right now. From like a leasing brokerage perspective, what has like the challenges been and sort of in this market cycle, the types of tenants you're talking to, some like avenues or methods you're using to attract tenants that you haven't had to before, just sort of, concessions, what is going on in the office leasing?
I'm curious, real quick, like, where do most people get their news from? Like, I'm curious, like, where most people
Yeah, I mean, Rutgers,
just yell it out.
The-
Wall Street Journal,
Yeah,
whatever it is.
Wall Street Journal.
Anything else?
Commercial Observer.
Yep.
Fair.
Okay.
real estate capital.
Like,
Real
You
deal.
want to start it?
I'll take a crack at it. So I think, well, just to talk about office first. So, yeah, if you read the news, like, it's the end of the world for office space. Nobody's ever going back to the office, and every office building should be torn down. But, I think that's much different from reality, and I think Jody could attest to that as well. There's certainly some buildings and some markets that won't come back, and the way people are working has absolutely changed. But I'm in the office 5 days a week, and I think for you guys entering the workforce, the easiest way to stand out is going to be to show up, which is crazy. But, lucky for you guys, the bar really there has never been lower. The expectation is very low, so you want to stand out, show up to the office. And, with that being said, I think the employers recognize that they still need to do something to warrant that, to make the commute worthy. People talk about, office space needs to be commute worthy now. There has to be a reason for you to go into the office. So a lot of companies you're seeing, they're downsizing, they're moving into nicer buildings, that have amenities. And especially we're seeing, downtown urban communities, places like Morristown, downtown Summit, even New Brunswick, some of these towns that, that are centered around like mass transit, and train lines. Those are seeing, much lower vacancy and elevated rents. And that's where people want to be. You want to go into work and then be able to go out, grab food, grab drinks, grab coffee with friends and people. You don't want to drive 30 minutes to some, office campus and then you're on an island with nothing to do. So I think it just looks different, and a lot of companies will probably lease less space, but they're going to move into higher quality buildings. But I don't think it's going away, for sure.
We're in an interesting market. I mean, I've been doing this for over 30 years. I've never been through a cycle where there's such a disparate difference between product type. Industrial is still really hot because interest rates are high. There's no speculative construction, which is putting more demand on existing product. And basically, in the US, we're about 1 billion square feet short of what we need. So industrial is just crazy. Office, depending on where you are, has really suffered. However, weirdly enough, in New Jersey, you take a Morristown, a New Brunswick, Summit, Hoboken, New Jersey is struggling a little bit because of financial, but any, call it transit hub, rents are crazy. I had a colleague who used to call New Jersey 25, 25, 25. We've been 25% vacant with rents of $25 a foot for the last 25 years. Nothing you want to brag about because New Jersey was so overbuilt, especially around here. And it, just to give you a little history, it's all about AT&T exploding. And AT&T would only pay an $18 gross rent. So anybody that wanted to build a building and attract AT&T had to work their numbers backwards to figure out how to build a cheap building because that's all they could get in rent out of them. Which is why if you drive around New Brunswick, not New Brunswick, like South Plainfield and Franklin Township and Piscataway, you'll see a lot of what I call commodity crappy office buildings. These buildings aren't coming back. You're actually seeing some of them being converted to industrial because in industrial, they're gonna get $16 a foot triple net, whereas on an office building, they're getting 20 bucks gross. They weren't even pushing 25 down here. So there's a real disparate difference between quality office product and everything else. We have seen quality subleases trade, and typically in a sublease, we advise our client, you get a 50% recovery, that's great. Anything over that is great. We're seeing subleases in quality buildings with quality installations trade for more than the initial rents. So it's a tale of two cities. It's very different depending on not just product type and location, but what have they done with that asset. I think you're gonna see rents in New Brunswick go through the roof with the announcement of the Helix deal with Nokia. And those rents, I think that they start at like 45 triple net. But it's a very expensive, heavy infrastructure building for lab use. It's probably more than that. But you can kind of see where you look at Morristown, Sanofi took 200,000 square feet, 47 triple net. You've never seen anything close to that in the suburbs of New Jersey. So it really depends on where you are. And the tough thing is like our clients are like, well, I read in the Wall Street Journal, I'm like, that's only focused on all the commodity space of, owners that aren't investing in their buildings that you would never consider going to because it's not an attraction for your tenant. Does that answer any of your questions?
Yeah, for sure.
Just to broaden that from a design perspective, we get calls a lot too to say, hey, my building's empty, can you help us redesign a spec suite? Or can you help us do a TI so someone can just come in and move in?
Just 1 second.
Yeah.
TI is tenant improvements if you don't know that. Okay, just checking.
Thank you.
It's okay.
They also look to us as architects and designers. We know a lot of what's in the market as well, right? Our clients, some of them come back and they keep building new spaces. I have a client right now, they are downsizing and consolidating, but they're looking to lease out half of their other building. And that's when people like JLL come in or CBRE and people like that, where they say, hey, I have a prospective tenant and a prospective client. Let's meet in the middle and have you talk to the building's architect, or their designer, and they can really help understand new ways of working as well. A lot of law firms, for example, that I work on a lot of those, they currently now build out their space to have less seats than their total capacity of employees. So they're also looking to do work from home and hybrid. And it's also about understanding their program requirements and how they work, and to help sometimes guide them to the best solution that works for them or for their new way of working. Everyone is going through this right now, right? Everyone went from 5 days a week to absolutely nothing in your pajamas and sweats. And you're like, am I ever gonna go back again? I don't know. And now it's about returning and bringing amenity spaces and bringing your home to the office, which I know sometimes people don't want to think that way. But it's about helping all of us collectively work together to help build a new community and a new space for our clients, which you would have the same clients that I would, just like we all share similar,
Yeah.
Thank you guys again for taking the time to come tonight. I remember last year, I took a lot of value out of all the discussion that happened at that meeting. I connected with everyone on LinkedIn, but I was like a nervous sophomore and I didn't follow up. I didn't go to any Corenet events. So to the students here that are learning about Corenet, like after this meeting, basically what's the benefit for a student to join Corenet and what do you guys get out of it?
First of all, student membership is $25, so you can't beat that in terms of pricing. You're then open to go to a number of events. Tyler, I'm sure you can details on this group. But you're open to go to a number of events. We do lunch and learns with landlords, where we sit in a room, there's maybe 20, 25 of us. We usually get them to buy lunch. Sometimes. And they tell us about like their company, usually it's on site at a recent development they've done, and they're open to any question whatsoever, and they kind of love showing it off to young people that are in the industry because they want to work with you in some capacity someday. That I think is the biggest, and the other thing is, you can see somewhere our list, we've got a list of what companies are affiliated with Corenet in New Jersey. It's super easy to pick up the phone and call somebody at Turner, like Tyler, and say, I'm at Rutgers, I'm interested in learning more about Turner. They're gonna take the call. And I'm part of Corenet. And you go to a meeting and you're networking at those meetings, and there's other events, there's charity events, there's educational events, there's women's events, there's a golf event. It's a way for you to connect with all of these companies and more. And that's probably the biggest help. And also, like, let's say you have a job. Was it Raj going to Hampshire? Oh, he left.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hampshire
Tom
works
was at Hampshire
Tom was at Hampshire?
last year.
Hampshire's connected to pretty much every single one of these companies. So you're meeting people that they're doing business with and creating other relationships with. So it's all, and listen, you may not love your first job. This is a great way to meet other people while you're trying to find another job. And that's that's really a huge benefit of it. And just being able to connect with people at organizations that you're gonna be working with or working for in some capacity at all different levels.
Thank you.
It's literally, and I'll reiterate the same point to my first point. The one in the back, you said leadership and management was your major, right? So say you were interested in finance, it's the same exact situation you guys had, right? You have the opportunity to learn about finance, and if any of you are curious about management, right, taking that major, you have the opportunity to work direct with her. It's the same exact thing, just in the corporate realm, right? And you guys may think it's much different, right? No, they're in their careers, they're 10 years in their careers, and they're all you're on a different path. What it boils down to, and I think everyone could agree, is it's really the same thing. It is legit the same thing as real estate club. It's real estate club for the corporate young leaders.
And you going to an event saying, hi, my name is Jody, I'm a junior at Rutgers, I'm majoring in finance with a concentration in real estate, what do you do? People love to talk about themselves. That's all you have to say to open the door. I'm dead serious.
So to that point, right? I was a superintendent in construction. I got thrown into sales. And they're like, you'd be good at sales. I said, I don't even have a suit, so I can't start Monday, and I need some time. All joking aside, I joined my first Corenet event, right? I had no idea how to network. And I remember going in there and I'm like, this is gonna suck. This is gonna be awkward, right? And I stood behind someone and I'm like, all right, now's my chance, right? And I just kind of stood there and I said, hey, you doing? I'm Tyler. I work for Turner, and I'm trying to branch out and meet a bunch of people, right? Didn't know one freaking person. It felt like a school dance where like I didn't know him, right? And to that point, I've stayed with Corenet for the last probably 6 years, right? In the same group and the same people I see all day in, day out. It doesn't take much. It's just putting yourself out there. That's the effort. If you're there, and the easy part is talking, right? It's getting yourself the momentum to get out there and go to the respective event or socialization portion of it, right?
And to add on to that, if you are interested and you want to attend an event, please reach out to us, because we would love to walk into the event with you and help create those introductions for you, make you feel welcome. I'm not an extrovert. The first event I went to that I didn't know anyone, I was very intimidated. So if I had that person there with me, just, you meet 5 people, that opens the door. Now the next time you go, you meet 5 more people. That large room becomes small very quickly. We all are here, like we said, to help you. So please use us as a resource to, kind of expedite that process for you all.
What other questions you guys got?
Hi, thank you all for being here. I'm Matt. I'm currently a sophomore studying finance. The question I had related to something that you mentioned earlier about this idea of a personal board of directors. That's something that I've definitely heard maybe once or twice before, but I've never had anyone really dive into that idea. So could you go into detail about how one develops their own personal board of directors?
Sure. So in my world, I work with a lot of different people, whether it's brokerage, design, construction. We sell through a dealer network, so very similar how you purchase a vehicle. We manufacture the furniture. We sell to the dealership. You buy your furniture or your car from the dealership. So the easy one for me was our best dealer partners, the principals there that have tons of business experience, succeeded, failed, really, have that business sense. I kind of started there. I have some of my board of directors internally within my company that hold leadership positions, in California. But it really was just making sure that overall I'm kind of out in different sectors, finding those people. Like, Jody's been incredibly helpful for me over the past 2 years. Leadership is new to me. It's kind of similar to sales, but very different at the same time. And I didn't know what I was doing, so I needed to learn quickly, right? So for me, the board of directors is really like, just, a lot of these people that are there have been through those different stages that I'm now going through. And it's really just to reach out and say like, hey, I'm going through this. These are my struggles. The best piece of advice my second year in the business was, you need strong internal relationships. You'll grow by having people like you within your company. And at first it sounded kind of silly. We're a $300 million, 900+ person company. There's a lot of people in that company that are really the ones who get things done for me. So having those internal relationships is very helpful. But kind of looking at what you're doing. It could be your best friend's mother or father. We're in a world of who you know, right? Use that to your advantage as you're getting started. And like we said, if you put yourself out there, people want to help. That's the hardest part, is putting yourself out there.
I think I developed my board of directors without knowing what I was doing. Justin was very intentional about it. It may ebb and flow over time. It's going to be people that you learn from that also that are invested in your career. But I will say, like, especially starting out, like, it's a little bit more incumbent on you to reach out to them, to kind of help create it. You don't say, listen, I'm looking to create my board of directors, want to be on it. Like, it just kind of, it happens with the people that you work with, and then they go other places, which is honestly the best thing that happens to any of us, because then you've got relationships with other firms. But it is, you'll start somewhere, and you'll start probably with your parents' friends that are at organizations that you respect, or just people that you respect because you respect what they're doing and you find it interesting. And it will ebb and flow over time. And I think one of the little sound bites that I learned that was so interesting to me, which is what's said about you when you're not in the room. Be intentional with your relationships. Don't try and have a board of directors of 20 people, because it's too many people. You want to keep it a manageable number, because these are the people that are going to be your advocates when you're not in the room. They're working at your company. Joe did a great job on that project. You should think about bringing him in now. Or he's at another firm. He's like, you know who we should bring over here? Joe was really good. So keep in mind, I think, which is what people say about you when you're not in the room. So treat people well. Expect to be treated. If you're not treated well by other people, maybe they're no longer on your board of directors. But be smart about where it is and where, and intentionally manage those relationships. Don't just assume that, some people, you can go a year without calling, but some people you can't. So kind of feel people out and understand them and their personalities and how to get out of them, because you're going to then be a resource for them wherever you're at.
Jody brings up a good point, right? You don't go up to somebody and say, I want you on the board of directors, right? You seem like you're pretty high up, you're on my list, right? You don't get that protection or that relationship without the effort on your end, right, and the respect. So, like, to your end, right, that's all good and grand, and you have built up that great rapport, Justin, right, of the board of directors, but that takes a lot of effort on your guys' end, and right, whether it's, you know, we're talking, okay, so your company allows 2 days from home, right? Maybe you guys work the first year every day, you know, in the office, right? Maybe you're the first one in and the last one to leave, right? I had an individual who reports to me ask me the other day, he said, how can I stand out? And I flat out told him, I said, beat me in. He was like, what do you mean?
Be what?
Beat me in.
Oh, okay, sorry.
And I said, I get in at 6 a.m. and if you beat me in, then you'll start standing out, right? Whether he wants to be in or not, he started coming in at 5:45. I said, good for you. You won. I'm not beating that. But right, you start standing out, and whether it's a function of just the effort, right? You start building that resume and the respect of all right, this kid wants it, right? Or that individual through thick and thin is trying his best, even if he's wrong. He's asking questions, right? He's not just submitting something that he's hoping for the best. He did what you said, right? He checked the box and that's it. He walks away. But he's asking the questions. You're building that personal resume. And the board of directors goes with it, right? So we always call it, instead of board of directors, we said riding the coattails, right? In our industry, and it's the same exact methodology. You got to earn the respect to get somebody's coattail and or get them on the board of director list. So it all boils down to the effort that you guys put in is the effort you'll get, or the glory you'll get out of it.
This one's for Caitlin. You mentioned being in a job that you want to be in versus that you should be in. Can you kind of elaborate on that and give some advice?
Sure. So I went to school in Philadelphia, and so when everybody was having their career fairs, all of the jobs were for the Philly area. I did not live in Philly, so I kind of had to figure out what I was supposed to do next, kind of without the assistance of the career center at my school. So I was like, well, all the architecture's in New York City. That's where I'm supposed to be. And I've never been a city person. It's never been someplace where I thrive. I like going every once in a while, but it's just not someplace I like to be all the time. But I was like, well, that's where I'm supposed to be. So I applied to jobs only in New York City. I was like, if I want to become successful in this industry, that's where I have to be. And I never allowed myself to look outside the walls that I kind of built for myself. And so then when I was working in the city, I was like, well, don't love this. So I started looking outside of the city, places where I could drive to from my house, still reputable companies, obviously, like Gensler and HLW are two of the biggest interior design and architecture firms in New Jersey. And just kind of worked that way and tried to figure out where I wanted to be that would make me happier and check off more boxes than just where everybody told me I should be working if I wasn't working in Philly. So I just figure out where you want to be in life or where you want to try to be. I mean, I'm still young in the industry. Like, I might try something new next, who knows? So you put your feelers out there, figure out what works for you. In this real estate world, there's so many different avenues that you could take, whether it's in construction, A&D, furniture. You can be a furniture designer if that's really where you want it to be, but there's just so many options that you don't always learn about all the avenues when you're sitting in a classroom and then graduating. You're like, well, this is what I need to do. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
I would even add to that to say, like, don't let your decision making being held up by trying to find like the perfect thing that you think is going to be your dream job, because it's going to evolve over time. And all of us started out by saying, what was our first job in the industry, and it's not what we're doing right now. So I think the only way to learn, or the best way to learn really, is by experience. So you're going to want to find something that at least lines up with what you think your end goal is, and then just give it your best effort. And you're going to meet people, learn along the way, and you'll course correct and figure it out.
You guys that are out there interviewing, do you get the question of like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What do you say?
Say like at this firm.
To me, I think the best answer is, I don't know. I'm just getting started. It really depends on what I learn here. Like where I'm interested and so forth. Like I only have book, not only, but I have book knowledge and maybe an internship. Like what are you guys gonna teach me? Because I think like at this point in your career, that's more important. The opportunities you're gonna have and what you're gonna learn, whether you stay there or you move on. That's just me.
So-
Like I love when somebody said, and you're right, I shouldn't be asking you that question.
So funny you bring that up, right? So when I was getting interviewed in our industry, right, the license is the professional engineering license, right? And I remember I was sitting in the room and she said, do you plan on getting your PE license? And in my head, I'm like, no way am I doing, right? Like I had no intention of doing that, doing another couple of years of school and going through all these credentials and everything. And I flat out said, I was like, you know what, I don't, but if this company requires it, you know, I'd be willing to entertain it. I remember she was like, that's the best answer ever, because we don't require it. And typically if people wanna get their PE, they may not wanna follow this industry, right? And I was like, thank God I was honest, right? Because if I'd gone the other way and lied, it would have been a total destruction of the whole entire interview. So kinda like to your point, right? Just be honest, and you don't have to know everything, right? The more humble you are in the interview, the better off you are, right? The more I do college recruiting as well, right? And anytime some individual comes up and gives me the actual personality that they are without, you know, all the hoopla and the resume, here you go, 4.0, right? You can have a conversation with them, that's what's important, right? Because that's somebody that you want to work with 5, 10 years down the road.
So we have a wide, diverse variety of experiences and firms that you guys work at. I'm just curious, this is a two-part question for everybody on the panel. What's your day-to-day like? And also, what is a project that you guys have worked on that sort of stood out to you and maybe exemplifies the work that you do or the firm does?
Go ahead, Justin.
All right, so my day-to-day is getting pulled into fires and really using those internal connections that I have to make them go away. Whether it's, with installation of furniture, we're one of the last trades that get put in before the end user occupies the space. Now more and more, especially post-COVID, that schedule I feel like shifts around a lot more where they want us to maybe install a little bit sooner than we should just because of what that deadline looks like. And with that comes some pressure. If something gets damaged from Massachusetts to New Jersey, it's like, well, how quickly are you going to replace it? Fortunately for us, being so close to a lot of our projects locally, it happens more quickly, but I have a 5-person team, and my value to them is clearing the BS out of the way so they can be effective in their roles of satisfying their clients. My favorite project that sticks out to me is back in 2020, we did a full floor for Google, it was 120,000 square feet. The opportunity for us stemmed from just because of how one of our machines could cut a radius into a piece of laminate, that sounds quite silly when you say it out loud.
It's
But
impressive though.
Yeah.
but in this, HLW was the design firm on it, and that mattered to the end user. And for Google particularly, they had a raised floor, so 664 people that we outfitted. They had electrical at each station, So for them, it was being an innovative tech company. I want my employees to be able to change their atmosphere and their workstation on the fly. So we engineered a custom platform workstation for them that was all toolless adjustment. So if they wanted to pull one panel off and, have more, access to the person next to them for whatever reason, I'm sure they've never done it, they could. And also pre-tooling the storage that they had to fit within their day 2, year 5 needs. Obviously, because of the client, that it's something that was special that a company like AIS, being not the largest manufacturer out there, was able to show why companies should look to us for furniture solutions. That was quite special, especially in a tough time when a lot of people weren't in the office.
My day to day is really split into 3 buckets. So again, commercial real estate broker, we mostly do, leasing, office leasing. So I'm either trying to source new business, pitch new business, go on meetings, or execute business. That's, if you're doing anything else, I don't know, you're not doing your job. But I spend a lot of time in the sourcing aspect of it just because I'm new. I think that's, you know, how a new broker can really add value is setting meetings. So
And that's how you control your career.
exactly. So you want to be the type of person that is developing business constantly and bringing in the right people. That's the senior broker, whoever. That's someone like Jody, who's smarter than me and knows what she's talking about. I want to bring Jody to a meeting to, you know, win business. So spend a lot of time, you know, making phone calls, sending emails, and researching companies. The other part of it is, you know, pitching it, trying to win it, and then, you know, you're executing on it. So you're running tours with clients, you're submitting proposals, you're negotiating deals, and then hopefully signing a lease at the end. And I think one of like my favorite deals to date was probably one of the smallest ones I've done. And you know, I've only been at JLL for a year and a half, so there'll be more to come hopefully. But it was you know, a referral, kind of like inbound deal that was, you know, they needed 2,000 square feet. It would be their first like office in New Jersey, and they really wanted to be somewhere like cool downtown. And I'd been walking a bunch of buildings, you know, in the Millburn, kind of Short Hill Summit area. So I like knew of this space immediately that just sounded perfect for them. And I knew the owner, and I was able to link them up, and it was like perfect, like sight unseen. They were like, this is the space. And you know, we negotiated back and forth, eventually signed a lease. And they invited me to like their ribbon cutting ceremony. So they brought all the employees in, and you know, they ordered Millburn Deli, if you guys are familiar. They got a bunch of sandwiches. You know, they brought in like food and everything, drinks, whatever, from different places. And all these people, you know, came in to celebrate opening this office, and then they were renting this brewery in Summit, you know, that night as well to continue the celebration. So like it clicked in my mind that, you know, you see all of these headlines about office space and how it's dead, but that company coming in and, you know, bringing their employees to downtown Millburn will actually make an impact like on that community. You think of a business like Millburn Deli that survives off people that work at that company going there during lunch, and you know, when COVID hit and all of that stopped, businesses like that were the ones to suffer. So I kind of saw like a real impact on the community from, you know, this small tiny company that leased 2,000 square feet of office space, and I thought that was pretty cool.
So my day-to-day is, it's always different a little bit day-to-day, but I typically have like 4 or 5 projects going on at once, and they're all in different phases of design. So whether it's test fitting out space for the client that they say, here's my program, here's what I need to fit in my new space, it's planning that out. It's also working with the junior designers under me to help get renderings out to the space so the client can really visualize what the space is going to look like. And I also have some projects in construction right now. So it's going to the construction site, meeting with the GCs, meeting with, you know, the construction managers, make sure we're on schedule, doing a lot of the background work that no one really thinks about, like how is this going to get approved, or who's approving this, or how does this actually happen, who's doing the drawings. You know, that's kind of in my world that I live in. So each project's very different, but not one day is the same in my world. And a project that stood out to me is one that I'm currently working on right now. I've been on the project from the beginning, so it was going with the brokers and touring the different spaces with the client to try and help them make the decision on the best building that they can be in based upon their program and their requirements, with doing all the drawings all the way through construction. But what's so special about this project, too, personally for my career, is I've been the senior designer on the project. So being able to have those client relationships with the client and build a connection with them is only going to lead you to more things down the road. Or they call you every day for the most, you know, silly things that to them is like life or death, and you're like, it's going to be okay, we're fine.
Say what project it is?
I can't right now, but it will be coming out on the papers soon, hopefully.
Right.
Yeah, it's a law firm. It's very, yeah, they're in New York. They're going into Hudson Yards, into the new building, so I can't say that. And, you know, they're also like defying law firms right now too. They're trying to go free, 100% free address, so no one has an assigned office, which is like massive in our world. Like that doesn't happen. Everyone wants their own office. Everyone wants a window office. Like
Everybody wants their space.
yeah, everyone wants their space, and that's not happening right here. Like they're really pushing the boundaries. And when we started this project, they came to us and said, we want to be the law firm of the future. So to like, as a designer, like what does that mean? Like how do I put that out into the built environment and affect the way people work? And again, it's about bringing people in the office. So they have all these amenity spaces and all this great stuff that they're doing to bring in. So right now it's been very special for me that that project's happening and they're moving in soon. So
Very excited to hear about this.
really hopeful that it's gonna, move in on time. Yeah.
My day-to-day looks very similar to what Ellen just described. Every day is really very different, depending on the phase of project that you're working on. It's really filled with, the different tasks like test fitting, rendering, etc. Filling your days with internal meetings, external meetings, talking to consultants, furniture dealers, engineers, basically anybody that you're working on the project in order to make the end product for the client. I think one of the projects that I've worked on that stands out the most to me is probably one of the first ones that I worked on at HLW. I learned, it was a 8-floor resac for an insurance company, and I learned a lot on that project. I actually worked on that project with somebody who started about 2 weeks after I did. So we both learned the client and our own company together at the same time, which was really great because neither of us felt like we could ask each other a stupid question because neither of us really knew anything. And that was one of my first projects that I saw from the very first phase all the way through move-in. So I went on the job site and learned all about what it meant to like lay lines and what it all looked like before all the gyp was up, seeing something that you've drawn on paper a million times, seeing it in 3D in real life. It was probably one of the more impactful jobs. I mean, I've now been working with that company since then, so I guess I like
My day-to-day is taking what the last two just said and building it, which is easier said than done. I think that was Ellen that left.
Yeah.
Yeah, is basically executing and coordinating the work all within, the other side of my job is managing the owner's budget against what our subcontractors buy out and what is designed. So, pretty challenging feat, but that is my day-to-day. What was the question? Most rewarding, right?
Yeah, it's like favorite project.
Probably what the project I'm on right now. I'm on a $50 million project for a hospital down in Toms River right now. And when we originally were awarded the job, I was excited to be on the job as a project engineer and kind of expecting, just due to my age, that we'll be getting another project engineer that I'd report to. And when I had asked my operations manager, who are we getting, right? And she's like, not getting anyone. She's like, it's you. I'm like, oh God, right? Like, serious, right? And to date, it's been very rewarding being able to execute the work out in the field and kind of see all your hard work going to build the building that they design and the owner funds, right? All for a hospital to take care of people. So that's the rewarding aspect of it.
Hey guys, I'm Sweden, currently a freshman, and you guys talked about some great diverse experiences you guys had. My question to you is, what made you enter the world of real estate?
Oh, I'll start with this, because I'm older, I got out in a really bad job market, and the only place that would take me, the only job I could get, I was down to 2 jobs, both administrative assistants, one at a commercial real estate firm, the other one at Ringling Brothers. And the only reason I didn't go to Ringling Brothers is because their pay was so low, I couldn't pay back my college loans. But I did want to add, when you were talking about interesting projects, and if you don't mind, I just want to jump in with, I think the finance team will really enjoy this story, so I'm going to say. In the middle of COVID, my client decided they wanted to sell a site of 85,000 square feet in Torrey Pines, California. Looking at Torrey Pines, looking at the water. 2-story project, couldn't make it any bigger, couldn't raise the ceilings, low ceiling space. We evaluated it based on where the rents were, where we thought the rents were going, and we said to our client, we think we can get between $48 and $50 million for this. Like, if we really push it, they were ecstatic. Go out to bid, minimum bid start at $55 million. We're like, we can't even pencil this out. Like, we had to stop analysis because, like, this is crazy. Like, no one's gonna do this. Go to the second round of bids, we're getting no separation in bids. We go to third round, we're like best and final, and my local team was like, they literally had the bids sent to me so nobody could play games with who came in where. We verbally awarded at $67 million, which we still couldn't believe we were getting $67 million. And the group that we verbally awarded it to, we were leasing space from that we needed to continue for a couple of years, and they were going to let us to continue to lease that space at below market rents. So that $67 million was really much better than that. One of the losers did not like that they lost. They put in an unsolicited offer directly to my head of real estate at $75 million. And her position was, we ran a clean process. Like, sorry, you lost. Her leadership was like, that's a lot in stock money. Like, we can't do that to our investors. So we got on the phone, we're like, what do we do? What do we do? And we're like, all right, we're gonna let the winning bid, we're gonna tell them the number and say, you can bridge this gap, you don't have to come all the way, but in our minds, if you come within like 3.5 to 5 million, we'll give it to you because it's the right thing to do. Right before we did that, we said, you know what? We know that the group that lost, that's lobbying in bids, is gonna be reaching out to the CEO. We're gonna give them one last chance. We went to them, the 2-hour deadline, and I still remember the day. It was May 26, 2021, or March 26, 2021, because I was going to Atlantic City for my second COVID shot. I'm literally on the phone with the guy, and we said to him, we are gonna go back to the winning bid, and we're gonna tell them, if you can bridge the gap, we're gonna give you the deal, and they don't have to match your offer. You've got 2 hours if you wanna come back to us with something that you think is an unbridgeable gap. So my partner and I are on the phone, and we're like, yeah, so 5 o'clock, it's like 4:59, like, where is it? Where's he gonna come in? Where's he gonna come in? We're like, 80 million, 81, like whatever. $91 million. We almost doubled our initial ask. It was a ridiculous offer. They will never get the return that they wanna get. My client couldn't have been more thrilled, and that is like just a thrilling transaction to be in the process of that literally took a couple of hours, and like those last couple of weeks were just crazy. I've had one in my career. I keep waiting for the next one. But that's kind of what keeps you going, is you work on some exciting project. And I would add to it, like for most of us, particularly me, like other than Wednesdays when all my clients want to have all their update calls, no 2 days are the same for me. And that's what I like about what I do. Sorry, I diverged that.
Nice. That's good. So starting construction, getting ready to graduate college, didn't really have a plan. So started going on Career Builder, Indeed, and going on interviews for sales. At that point, I was coming out with a marketing degree, and throughout college, I was selling snowboards. Something I was always very passionate about. So I'm like, oh, I have to do something in sales and marketing because that's my experience, and that's what I just spent a bunch of years studying. After a ton of interviews, I came across a job posting for a construction firm, and it was very detailed. And it just laid out all of the different types of industries that they touched, corporate, industrial, hospitality. And it for whatever reason, it really stood out to me. It was something like, I could see myself doing this. And for me, the best part about it was a smaller company, so getting to work directly with the owner, and really, like I said earlier, seeing how businesses run, learning what good business looks like, but alternatively looking at some decisions and how maybe could have done something differently for a more favorable outcome. And the first task that I had was to create a database. So, or NG Book of Lists still a thing? Yeah. All right, so I had this book that was like this big, and it was top 50 real estate brokerage houses.
Top everything. Top accounting firms, top All firms.
developers, A&D, and it took me 6 months to create a database off of that. And he's like, all right, well, I'll go meet people. So it was a really nice opportunity to really learn the industry. Like at that point, I didn't know why there was a bunch of vice presidents and directors in brokerage. I'm like, I thought there was like
nothing yet.
I had no idea, I was very green then. But so that's kind of how I got in, and then through networking and through the sales process, just fell into furniture. I think if I could go back, I would do architecture because I always loved building Legos growing up. But
It's a requirement.
yeah, see, so I'm halfway there. But I thought it was so math heavy, and I was awful at math, so I'm like, oh, I can't do that. So jumping into furniture, having something tangible again, was bridging the gap from having a tangible product from snowboards, but also being able to be more on the creative side as well.
Can you just repeat the question again? Was it how you got into the industry?
Yeah, what made you get into the real estate industry?
Got it, okay.
Because you wanted to get out of ADP.
You wanted to get out of ADP. Wanted to make some money? Is that a good answer? I don't know, I guess it goes back to what I was saying earlier, is that like, just trying things. There was no real estate program at Rowan, so it wasn't until later on in my college career that I learned about real estate really. But while I was at Rowan, I was actually working for a realtor on campus who did off-campus rentals, and I was kind of helping him out, showing some spaces and then responding to applications that came in. So that was like my first introduction to it. And he was like, you should go get your real estate license and, rent a bunch of, houses to your fraternity brothers. And I was like, that's a great idea. And then, COVID happened and kind of foiled my plans. But I still got my real estate license. And, through a friend, I got a job, with a residential brokerage shop. And I did that a little bit while I did classes remotely. And I liked it, but I wasn't in love with it. That's when I went to ADP. But that real estate experience was all really attractive to me, but I was more interested in commercial and, just started doing a lot of networking, going on LinkedIn and saying, okay, who went to Rowan and now works in real estate? And I would just simply, send them a note and say, hey, I went to Rowan, graduated 2021, we'd really love to learn about what you do at XYZ company. And, I'd say 80% of them would respond, and we'd hop on the phone and just, ask them a few questions, much like we're doing tonight, and just learn a little bit about what they did. And none of them really ever offered me a job, but eventually my friend's dad, I found out, worked at JLL, and he was in our project management services, so they oversee build-outs, the construction of space, and I submitted an application to JLL, and he was able to flag it internally, and then I was able, to finally get my foot in the door. So I'd say it's just persistence, it's just, trying things, and, eventually it's definitely networking. It does come down to who you know, because, you're gonna get hired for things that you know and for your experience, but at the end of the day, I think you get hired a lot because they like you and they want to work with you. People want to work with people that they like and trust. A lot of what you learn is gonna be on the job, so I think that's important to keep in mind too.
Yeah, just remember, whoever you're going to work for, they're investing a lot in you, and it's not just a salary, it's time and training, so they're equally invested, so that's what the interview process is like, especially for you all in such an employee market. Really vet the people you're gonna be working with.
Yep. See what the mentorship opportunities look like. What does that
Ask.
path look like? Yeah.
So I don't come from a real estate background, but I'll tell you how I got to design. So when I was 16, my parents hired an interior decorator, and she was the worst person in the whole world, and made me cry, and was really just terrible. And I was like, I want this. Nope, you can't have it. That's not how the vision's gonna look. So then that made me really interested in a young age, is like, okay, there's more than just decorators, there's designers, interior architects, architecture. So I started looking into it, and so I grew up in Arizona, and I had known everyone there my whole life, and I went to Arizona State, and after I graduated, I said, I wanna move somewhere, I don't know anyone. I just wanna pick up and go. So I graduated, and 2 weeks later, I moved to Washington, D.C. on a internship for design. I always knew I wanted to come back to the East Coast because I had interned in college in New York for a hospitality firm, and I just loved it. And I was like, this is what I want to do. Like, I want to create beautiful spaces, and I want that kind of career for me. And once I got to DC, that was kind of like my ticket of coming back to the East Coast. And I was like, okay, I need to figure out how I'm gonna make it back to New York. That's like my ultimate goal. So I was in DC for about 2 years, and to the point where I had a great job, I loved my job, but I wasn't being challenged anymore. And when you're not being challenged anymore, then it's like, what's your day-to-day? Then you're just, it's very repetitive. So I said, okay, where can I apply? And I said, well, Gensler's my dream firm. And in New York, that would be like the ultimate. So one week, I messaged someone on LinkedIn, I believe. It was like an HR recruiter or someone in HR. And I said to her, I'm coming to the city and I want to meet with someone. She's like, well, you can't really do that. I said, well, I'm going to do that. And I have my portfolio ready, and I'm ready to like talk to someone because I'm coming back here. So I met with this one round of people, and they were like, well, we're not really hiring for what you're looking for right now. Try again later. And then a month goes by, and I was like, no, I have to like get out there. So I came back. I had found some designers through the website and emailed them, and I was like, I'm coming. My name's Ellen, and I'm an interior designer, and I just want to meet you, and I really want to work at your company, and I want to work with someone like you. And I interviewed with them, and then I had a job, and then before you knew it, I moved to New York and started working at Gensler. So my journey was more of like being persistent and really making yourself like known, like put yourself out there. And you could do this whether you're introverted or extroverted. All it does is just take one like hello, like we've all been talking about before.
One hello and a little flowery.
Yes, exactly. And just being prepared and knowing, you might not know what you want now, but just come up with something to like have yourself on a path forward. Like you might change your career, and that's okay. That happens to a lot of people. But if you can have like a plan A to get somewhere, and then okay, if that doesn't work, I'll do this, or the other. You're going to be successful in whatever you do. Especially like everyone here seems very career driven and oriented. I mean, you guys all have like internships and jobs, and you're all so young. Like it was like not like that. At least when I was a freshman. Yeah, like, I didn't really figure things out till I was a junior, like what I wanted to do. That's when I had my first internship. But I think just, being persistent and putting yourself out there, and you'll figure out your path, and it's always gonna work out for you. It will.
And don't worry about rejection.
Yeah.
Move on from it, don't dwell on it.
Yeah, I got rejected when I came back. You never know what's gonna happen, And there have been other situations where I've been rejected, and some where I've been brought up, and that's okay. That's life. That's how you figure out who you are, how you figure out your strengths, your weaknesses, and it helps you build your next path forward.
So I got into the A&D world because when I was in high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. So I asked my parents, what should I do? And they were like, well, much like Justin, they thought that you needed to be good at math to be an architect. And I was really good at math. And I come from a family of accountants. Literally everybody's an accountant. And they knew that I was also really creative. So they're like, well, you're good at math, and you don't want to be an accountant, and you're creative. So why don't you try architecture? So then I started visiting schools for architecture. And then fell in love with the interior design side of things. I don't think that I really knew that this is exactly where I wanted to be until I had my first internship and I was actually working in the real world, and, as opposed to studying out of a textbook. And I was like, wow, I really do like this. So then I got my first job and just been working in the field ever since, really.
I'll be quick because I know we're pressed against time. I think before I go down a wormhole of how I fell into the real estate industry, right, because I'm in construction, it didn't hit me until a couple years in, right? I am in the, right, I actually am a part of it. I think the most important thing is what Caitlin just said, is like, especially for individuals with internships, use that internship as an opportunity to know what you don't want to do. I hated what I did at my internships. I absolutely despised it, but it was the best thing I could have ever done because I found out, okay, I definitely don't want to do that, right? And it's a lot easier to It's a lot easier to shift internships by summer, right? You only have so many, than it is to switch careers at the drop of a dime, right? Each year, right? And granted, it's not possible, right, to switch careers, and that's the luxury of being able to expand your external network and knowing people, but use those internships as opportunities to say, yeah, that's just not for me, right? So, sorry I didn't really answer your question, but I think that's probably more important than time.
I would add, use your 20s to figure out what you don't like, professionally, personally, relationship-wise. Like, when I look back, that's what your 20s are about. It's not about figuring out what you like, it's figuring out what you don't like, and then your 30s are about how do you enhance what you like.
Yeah, I think we are coming up on time, so thank you so much.